Moxie Boosted is one of the most prominent figures in the world of VGC YouTube. VGC is Pokemon's official competitive doubles format, and with a great mix of informative, tightly edited content and entertaining gameplay, Moxie Boosted has videos that can appeal to anyone, whether you're deeply involved in VGC as a competitor or you're just vaguely interested in what's going on in that metagame. Moxie Boosted is also a competitor himself, regularly attending in-person events, and I think he has a great attitude towards the game, striking a good balance between trying to win and having fun. Thank you for taking the time to come on the Fridge podcast today, Moxie Boosted, and how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I had a really productive day in terms of content. So, hopping on the podcast and basically just going from one project to another. So, it's been a nice day.
Amazing. I saw on Discord it says you're playing Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, I just kind of have that running in the background right now because I was looking to mod it because I watched the new Fallout TV show, right?
Oh.
And now my Fallout hyperfixation's been reinvigorated.
I should check that out.
Just kind of have it open.
That's one of my favorite games of all time. It's an excellent game.
Oh yeah. I love this game. I actually never finished it. I think I got all the way to the last quest, and then I think my save file corrupted, and that was back in high school, and I just never picked it up again.
Oh no, yeah, it is a bit glitchy like that, isn't it? Well, I wanted to ask you about your name, Moxie Boosted. It's of course a reference to the ability Moxie in Pokemon, but what drove you to choose that particular name? Is there a Moxie Pokemon that you have a particular affinity for, or you just like the ability? Or is it random?
Yeah, so it's funny. So my old YouTube username was the Head Honchcrow, and I think after my first 1,000 subs back in 2016-ish, I kind of realized that hey, if I ever want to do something other than Pokemon, or let's say one day I do a merch drop, I can't really have the word Honchcrow in there. So I was like, okay, I was workshopping different usernames that would sort of fit the same vibe as Honchcrow. One of them was Sucker Punch, one was just Pursuit. It was just Pokemon terms that aren't copyrightable.
Yeah.
And Moxie Boosted kind of rolled off the tongue. I'm like, okay, that one's pretty decent.
So it was a business decision to avoid any copyright takedowns from Nintendo. That's very intelligent.
Exactly.
And Honchcrow's an epic Pokemon. That's a good namesake.
Yeah, no, I love Honchcrow. He's a goofy guy. His animations and the what's that game? Battle Revolution are really goofy, and I don't know. I used to play a lot of singles, and I really liked running Life Orb, Honchcrow, and Yu back when Sucker Punch was 80 base power.
Which Yu? Which generation?
Gen 6, the best generation for Yu. IMO.
That was a good format, I think. I remember playing a bit of that too.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So, sounds like you got a long history with Pokemon, dabbling in singles a bit too in the past. Did you start with singles and transition to doubles eventually, or did you always dabble in both?
So basically, what happened was my introduction to competitive Pokemon was I stayed up really late one night. I had high school. I was in high school. I had school in the morning, and I would look up world championships for random things. So I looked up Beyblade World Championships, and I thought that was funny. I was like, "There's no way it's real." It is real. It's hilarious. But in the recommended was the 2014 World Championships for Pokemon. So I actually watched my good friend Jody Azzarelli lose to Pachirisu, and I was like, oh, this is a real thing. So I picked up Oris after not having picked up a game since Pokemon Ruby, and the first results for competitive are actually, if you look up competitive resources back in the day, were mainly Smogon. So I tried out OU. I was extremely bad at it, and I was extremely stubborn, and I didn't want to pick up a sample team or anything. And what ended up happening was I played a lot of OU and UU, and I liked UU because it let me use more Pokemon that I liked without getting completely washed. And then eventually I was like, oh, there's this IRL tournament. That's what I saw. I wonder how I can get into that. And that's when I got introduced into VGC. So my first VGC format was late VGC 2015, around the time that Chalk Core was coming around, the Kangaskhan, Cresselia, Heatran, Amoonguss, Landorus Core. Fun fact, that actually only really popped up at the end of the format. It wasn't popular throughout, so that format was very good. And then 16 was my first full format, which was the Primogroudon, Kyogre format, which was really fun. And that's when I sort of fell in love with that game.
So it's from a desire to play in person, which singles doesn't really offer as much.
No, not really. I think there used to be single side events like Smogon stuff at PAX or these conventions, but they were never like official tournaments.
Yeah, that is the downside of singles a bit. It's nice. I've been to only one VGC regional tournament, but it was a nice atmosphere. It was fun.
Oh, which one did you attend?
I went to in Australia, the Brisbane regional back in 2019.
Ah, gotcha. I have a friend. My actually editor, Balin, attends that one regularly.
Oh, cool.
Or, not regularly because Evan's once a year, but
yeah,
she attends it every time.
That was a interesting metagame. The Sun Series 2019. Before they allowed Megas and Z moves.
Yeah, Sun Series was pretty cool. Mainly because that was like one of the few formats where base Charizard was viable. If I remember, there was
I played against a Charizard in that tournament.
Yeah, Specs Solar Power Heatwave was like a real set. I really like that.
Speaking of which, someone asked us, it was a question for both of us, what is something that you appreciate from the other format that you don't mainly play? I guess I can answer that myself is, I like in doubles, there's a lot of really unique like utility Pokemon or stuff that takes advantage of the unique mechanics of doubles, like that Heatwave set you just mentioned. In that format, I used Serena, who you never see in singles, but Serena's actually quite cool in doubles, and it was cool in that format because it can hit both Groudon and Kyogre and also offer some priority management. And Feint, I think it had, which is cool to break protects. I like a utility Pokemon like that.
Oh yeah, Feint's a really cool move.
And what's something that you appreciate about singles that doubles might not offer?
Something I really like about singles is that glass cannons can actually function on their own, and they don't require any kind of support other than maybe like some rocks. So a lot of my favorites are like stuff like Absol, Pokemon that frankly just will not function in doubles. Especially Mega Absol was a big one I liked back in Gen 6. It was like 115 base speed, 150 base attack, magic bounce, knockoff sucker punch. That thing could never work in doubles because it can't hold the focus sash. And base Absol can't work in doubles because it's just not fast enough. So being able to set up the conditions like, for sticky webs, focus sash, to get a sweep going with those mons, I actually like that quite a bit.
That is true. Singles, you see a lot more like really frail but really fast and offensive threats, which in doubles they would just get hit by prio or like double tapped by something.
Yeah, it's really easy just to like remove those mons.
So you're a competitor at the same time as putting out all this high quality content. Do you find it difficult to juggle those things? That's something I've personally found a bit difficult myself, becoming a YouTuber.
Yeah, that was a lot harder when I wasn't full-time with content. Basically, when I was either in school or when I still had my old job, I would need to record a video every day. And content is really weird for competitive Pokemon because there's like different echelons of competitive content. You can either be very serious and talk about the metagame. You can use some really fringe strategies that will get more views. Like, oh, hey, I'm using Charjabug or something, or you can do like video essay content. And I found that it was really, really difficult for me to get any real practice in with standard teams when a lot of my content only got views because I was using some really strange Pokemon. So a tournament would come around and I'd be like, okay, what team am I best with? And it would be the, random bulky Life Orb Honchkrow with Parish Song that I used in the video once, where I would much rather be using, a standard team, but I just had no practice with it. So that was rough. Eventually, YouTube took off to the point where like my video essays were doing really good. I was getting a lot of subscribers, and nowadays I have time to make fun teams and use like just really good teams. So when I go to tournaments, I'm no longer just woefully underprepared.
It's something that does happen with Pokemon YouTubers. Use funny weirdo teams because that's what gets views, and then all of a sudden you're known as the guy who uses stupid Pokemon, and a tournament comes around, and then you don't have any actual teams. You got no real teams.
Yeah, you finish 4-5, and people put you on fraud watch.
Yeah. It's nice that you've gotten into your groove a bit more with that. I think you've talked about the step of like becoming a full-time creator was a difficult thing and a scary thing.
Oh yeah, no, that was definitely rough. Funny enough, like my dad is an entrepreneur. Like he has his own business, right? So like he was 100% behind me. He was like, yeah, dude, you hate your job, sucks, do the thing that makes you more money and makes you happier. And I was like, okay. And then my mom was like, you need to think about your future. And I was like, I am thinking about my future. This makes me more money. And I like doing it. So those initial few months were really weird because I sort of had to lock in mentally. I had to not be like lazy, get up, play video game, not that isn't Pokemon, don't record, that sort of thing. Like it couldn't be like a vacation. Like every day I gotta be working. So I rely on like calendars. The Outlook calendar is my best friend.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even though we have like the freedom to work at our own pace, you're kind of incentivized to work hard because it yields more results, and then you got to impose your own work-life balance, which can be difficult for some people. It was difficult for me to find that balance. I think I've figured it out a bit better as I've gotten used to it, but how's that been for you?
It's been kind of weird. I definitely live like a lady in a Lifetime movie. Are you familiar with Lifetime
Are
movies?
they like TV movies that are cheap to produce or something? Is that what that is? I don't know.
Yeah, they're
Is
like
that an American
cheaply
thing?
produced. It's an American thing. So like Lifetime movies are like cheaply produced movies, mainly from like it's usually like romance dramas or like crime dramas from the point of view of like an upper class woman in America. And usually like, they're like a journalist or something and they're like living their best life. So, before something bad happens. So I always joke around that I live like a woman in a Lifetime movie because I like go to the coffee shop and I write my script and I go for a run in the morning and I make myself some avocado toast. Like I always joke around about that with my friends. So the work-life balance it's good now. But I found that I have to not be at my place of residence to get work done. Like I need to be somewhere else.
Interesting.
It makes it a lot easier to lock in.
Maybe I should do that. I'm just at home half the time.
I would definitely recommend it. Like if you can find like a coffee shop or something.
That's what's hard for people is when you work at the same place that you relax, it kind of F's with your brain a little bit, doesn't it?
No. And right now, when I went full time with YouTube, I moved back in with my parents to be safe because I didn't want to I didn't want to take the dive, find out I don't make enough money, and then not be able to pay rent. So I moved back in with my parents, and I'm actually, after a solid, half a year of finding out how things work and just seeing how everything's going, I'm moving into an apartment on my own again. And having an office and a bedroom is going to be awesome because right now my office is my bedroom and that can be a little cramped, which is a big reason I need to not be home to get work done.
Well, that sounds great. Sounds like things are going very well.
Oh yeah, no, I love it here.
Got a question from Drowning Ground who asked, what was your favorite VGC format of all time and your least favorite?
I would say that my favorite VGC format of all time is VGC 2018, followed pretty closely by VGC Regulation F, which is actually a pretty hot take from what I understand. A lot of people did not like Reg F.
28, that was Gen 7 before restricteds and stuff, was it?
Yeah, 2018 was great. You're able to basically get away with running whatever you wanted. A lot of people be like, oh, in VGC you have to run only the top tier Pokemon, but legitimately in this format it was just like, nah, dude. If you have like one of the 18 different cores that are viable, you can throw a Honchkrow in there. I like formats that let me get creative, but don't require me to, have to be creative to get things done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I guess that's something that I find a bit annoying about VGC is you're kind of at the whim of whatever format is current, and sometimes it feels like a roll of the dice whether it's going to be fun or not, especially when restricteds come into play. I found that the 2019 Sun Series, half the teams were just Xerneas, Groudon, and Kyogre.
Yeah, double restricted is especially guilty of that because, it's like, oh, here are the two restricteds that work the best together. If you try to do anything too different than that, you're going to end up struggling. But even single restricted can be kind of frustrating because what ends up happening is you sort of start to play matchup roulette. It's like, I decided to lock in with, I don't know, Groudon, and everyone I'm facing is playing Kyogre with like a Gothitelle. There's no way for me to, switch the weather. I'm just kind of stuck in that auto loss. But with, terrestrialization, things have gotten a lot better on that front. You're able to not have as many auto losses, which is definitely the worst part about the restricted.
Did you say Regulation F is your favorite, one of your favorites, or your least favorite?
That was one of my favorites. That was one of my favorites. I
feel like Tera has been quite well received in the VGC community, hasn't it? I think at least it's a lot better than Z moves and Dynamax were for the metagame. It's more interesting.
Yeah, we love it. So Tera definitely, it's with every single gimmick, no exceptions. It's like a rich get richer sort of thing. Where, I, have this Landorus, so now my Landorus can Dynamax. Now it has reliable flying moves. Landorus gets better. And then, with Z moves, Landorus gets flying move. And then with Megas, Landorus doesn't get anything, but hey, there's Mega Salamence. Where with Terrestrialization, that's definitely the case. Landorus gets a flying move again. But now there are different things you can pull off. Heatran can turn into a grass type, and Flash Fire is busted with that. Same with Armarouge. That's like a set that people will run. But even like lower tier Pokemon will sometimes find a niche. Like there was a Tropius team that topped the ladder back in Series 1 or Regulation A, whatever we're calling it now. And it was like Tera Water Leech Seed Tropius. And just because it got rid of its ×4 ice weakness, all of a sudden Tropius was like a thing running around. So that's what I really appreciate about it. There's just much more flexibility with terrestrialization than people give it credit.
Definitely very cool at doubles, not as good in singles.
Yeah. I mean, in singles, it feels like most of the time it's just, oh, hey, you were going to beat my King Gambit, but now it's a fairy. Sorry.
It's pretty stupid. It's just like, there are creative ways you can use it, and it's dynamic, which I think is cool. You know, you can use it to live one hit, which gets you some cool interaction. Or, because it's hidden, not like VGC, so you can surprise Ghost Terra type and block an extreme speed or something. But 90% of the time, it's just something using it to get more stab damage or get a free turn to set up Quiver Dance or Dragon Dance or something, which is not, I don't think is as interesting as in VGC, where, like, yeah, you can use it on the OP thing like Fluttermane Terra Fairy, but even that has ways you can punish it, because now that Fluttermane is no longer Ghost type and get faked out, or like, you can use it to Terra Grass and dodge powder moves or dodge prankster moves. Type immunities can come into play. Resistances can come into play in more ways. I think it's like really actually quite cool. And I was practicing a bit of VGC for the tournament we're in, the Showdown Star tournament, and it's pretty fun playing with Terra, to be honest, in VGC.
I'm kind of, I know I said I liked Regulation F, but I think I'm mostly just a guy who likes the current format. I just always enjoy trying new things. So I think that I'm a little bummed out that the format isn't going to be Reg G for that tournament, because I have like a really fun Reg G thing that I'm like, okay, this could be solid, but I'm not really going to get a chance to try it.
Yeah, that would have been fun. It seems like Regulation F has a bit more variety.
Yeah. I think that like for the viewers, Regulation F is the correct choice. But Reg G, with how unsettled that format is, I think it could be even more interesting, because like no one really knows what's good, you know?
True, but then I would have to like build my own team instead of copying one that I found on the forums. So that would be a disadvantage for me.
This is true. It would suck for the singles players, because it's like, okay, well, you know, the doubles players, we can just pick a team off from like Blunder's from Blunder's Smogon page.
Exactly,
just steal one from a viewer, but that isn't really an option for VGC if it's a brand new format.
And what is your least favorite VGC format then?
I would say, so it's technically not an official format, I'm gonna explain why. But it's Series 6 VGC from 2021, I think. Either 2021 or 2022. But basically what happened was COVID happened, the whole world shut down, and VGC tournaments were put on hiatus for a while. But due to that, people had sort of a skewed perception of what VGC was. Effectively, what would happen each year is the World Championships would take place in August, and then in August through like September up until like the new games came out after the World Championships, we'd have sort of a what if format. So that what if format would sometimes be like, oh, hey, you can use as many restricted as you want. It was like it wasn't official. There would be no tournaments for it, but it would be like a thing that they would put on the ladder. They did this back in 2016 after the World Championships, right before like Sun and Moon dropped, I think. And it was like an alternate ladder. But the what if format for Sword and Shield that would have happened right after the World Championships, since there was no World Championships and no format, people thought it was like a real format that should be taken seriously. And that was Series 6, which banned the top 10 most used Pokemon from both the singles ladder and the doubles ladder. So Hippowdon caught a stray in doubles. It was banned. Dusclops managed to avoid getting banned because Porygon 2 had new toy syndrome. So Porygon 2 was really high in usage. When Dusclops would have been much better to get banned. And like, yeah, the ban list was universal. So if something was top 10 in usage for singles, like Mimikyu, it was banned.
That's quite strange.
It was so bad.
So did you lose all your good utility mons like Amoonguss and stuff? And did that make things weird? Yeah,
we lost a lot of really great Pokemon that day. Rillaboom. One of the most annoying things was that Cinderace and Porygon Z were top tiers in in Series 6. And it felt like, because we lost all the great defensive Pokemon, we lost Incineroar, we lost a lot of like really good pivot mons, that that combined with Dynamax made it so it was just Rocket Tag. It was, okay, sorry, my Porygon Z won the speed tie, yours is dead now. That was basically all the format was. And some people would be like, no, it got better. Lapras did pretty good late in the format. I'd be like, I don't really care. The Lapras was weakness policy with Giga Drain Comfey next to it. I could care less how good that format ended up being at the end. It was just not a good format. But like I said, it was never meant to be played in tournaments. It was just a
little for fun thing, but people had little else to do, so they took it more seriously maybe than it was intended, I guess.
And a similar thing happened with what was it, Series 13. Series 13 allowed mythicals. That would never be allowed in tournament. People were still like, nah, it's a real format. But that has a lot more to do with so many new players coming to VGC in Generation 8, and that combined with the circuit shutting down led to a lot of skewed perceptions of the game.
That's an interesting answer. I never knew about that. That could be a good video topic, like
the
worst format you've never heard of or something like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely working on that at some point. I have like a list full of video topics that I'm just like, okay, no, I need to get these done.
That's a great one. That's a compelling idea. So one of the main critiques of Pokemon's official format, doubles, VGC doubles, is that it's a bit difficult to get into in terms of training the Pokemon yourself, breeding all of these barriers to entry. How would you feel about some sort of official Pokemon battle simulator? Maybe not a battle simulator, but some sort of spin-off Pokemon competitive edition, maybe in the vein of like Pokemon Stadium, that streamlines these things and makes it a little bit more accessible for newcomers?
Yeah, so and this is like a very hot take, I am in favor of long-term Pokemon having sort of a live service game that is specifically for competitive. Basically, after playing Pokemon Legends Arceus, I'm like, oh my god, Pokemon games can be good. And then I realized like Pokemon games can be good if they don't have to balance it for VGC, and they don't have to like worry about like PvP stuff. So if that was the case, I would still want a VGC to exist. So I'm like, okay, what's the solution here? Bring back Pokemon Stadium as like a sort of a live service game like Pokemon Unite, where this not only would allow for the competitive format to be much easier to get into because it's, all the Pokemon are right there. You can EV train them. It'd be sort of like, Pokemon Showdown just online. But this would also allow for buffs and nerfs to happen season to season, like a good game.
Yeah, it's difficult when it's a single-player RPG combined with a competitive multiplayer game. And you can't do nerfs and stuff the same way you do for other games.
Yeah, no. I mean, we kind of got that with some things in competitive Pokemon, but it's mostly just like it happens from generation to generation, like in no other like situation,
Yeah, or it's like a bug fix or something like that. It's never like an actual...
the Dondozo bug fix. Whew, that one pissed me off.
I think I agree with you. I think some sort of even a free-to-play modernized competitive Pokemon experience would be the way to go. A lot of people are attached to the RPG side, but
yeah, I mean, you can separate the two, like, hey, here's a live service just for battling, and then here's the story focused games, like Pokemon Legends ZA. There's no way that's going to have PvP in it because that would sort of, ruin the whole Legends Arceus thing. The fast attack, strong attack, weak attack, whatever it is, that's really fun. I like that. I also just like that you don't really have to focus around having the best team. You can just use whatever you want. I think that separating the competitive side of Pokemon from the story-based side of it is actually for the best for both of them,
Yeah, it was better for Legends Arceus that they had more creative freedom with the mechanics. For once, like, shake things up, which a lot of people really liked. So I think that's absolutely true. I don't know if maybe they should do away with the single players games having multiplayer at all, but...
Oh yeah. I'm just saying like the competitive side of things could be separated a bit.
Absolutely. And maybe they could even have it so you can import your Pokemon into the competitive game. And if they're legitimately bred and trained and stuff, there's some cosmetic or some way to show that in the game so you have that little bit of prestige associated with that Pokemon.
Yeah, the thing that I imagined was actually that... How to explain it? So the biggest part about Pokemon that I think Game Freak or the Pokemon Company will never allow to change is that you need to catch and just basically catch Pokemon. I don't know if they care about training them, but what I picture is more like if you have a Pokemon Home account, like that's the barrier of entry to play like the Pokemon Stadium, right? And just by having that Pokemon registered in Home, it would allow you to use it on the battle simulator. You can customize the EVs, IVs, nature and stuff on the battle simulator, but you still have to have caught that game in another game and transferred it to Home.
That could work, yeah. I guess there's many ways they could do it. It's something to brainstorm over there. But I've always said that I think Pokemon could be such a larger esport. It's already such a large franchise, but I've seen so many people interested in it, but they get turned away by the barrier to entry of VGC.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's gotten better throughout the years. Definitely, like, VGC is one of the harder versions of Pokemon to get into. In Smogon, you can pick it up via Pokemon Showdown, and that's where most of the player base is. It's pretty rare to see an in-game battle on, a Smogon format. But with VGC, because it's almost entirely done in-game, and like the resources for it have only really started to become available in the last couple of years with the explosion during COVID, it's definitely a little more frustrating to pick up.
And even VGC players use Showdown for practicing and building.
Oh yeah.
It's easier to tweak EVs and test those out rather than like, what if you had to do that in-game? Like you want to test an EV spread, you got to catch it entirely
You can reset the EVs with like items in-game, but the thing is that these items have always been locked behind the DLC paywall, or at least they are in modern games. There was an NPC in Sword and Shield called Lady Clear or something, and you could only use her if you had access to the Isle of Armor DLC. And then in Scarlet and Violet we have reset mochis, but they're only available in the Kitakami DLC or whatever it is.
It's already an expensive game in the base state. And then don't even get me started about like transferring Ishifu from Gen 8's DLC and all that.
No.
That's crazy.
That's
Anyway, let's move on to something more positive. On your channel you seem to have quite an affinity for the Pokemon Wo-Chien, as do I.
Yes.
A very cool and epic Pokemon. What specifically draws you to Wo-Chien though, and why have you used it in so many tournaments?
So, for me, my favorite play style in Pokemon is like balance, or I guess some would call it like a control team. That isn't really a thing in VGC nowadays, just because Gothitelle isn't as strong and we don't have like Mega Gengar. But the way that those teams would play is you would have Incineroar and a Gothitelle or a Mega Gengar and like a bunch of pivot Pokemon. My favorite iteration of it was Incineroar, Mega Manectric, Gothitelle, and Tapu Fini back in 2018. But when I saw Wo-Chien having the ability to passively reduce the attack stat of everything and is a grass type, I was like, oh, this goes crazy with like Incineroar on like control teams. But as things went on, we slowly found out that control wasn't really going to be a thing in Gen 9. And even despite that, I just liked its design. I like the concept of being able to switch something in and have everything take less damage. So like those two things combined made me like just really, really attracted to the Pokemon. And I keep trying to find different ways to run it on teams. And it is my chronic 6-3 Pokemon. I will almost never ever day 2 with it, but I'll basically always get points.
I think it's my favorite design, or one of the best designs of Gen 9. I like its dark grass typing too, is obviously perfect for doubles with 2 very relevant immunities. It's got a great.
If I remember the lore, the lore for it, I think is like the tablets, like, are records of crimes that like a king did, and then the king like ordered that the person who like documented those crimes be put to death or something. And because of that, Wo-Chien had like some vengeance spirit inhabit the tablets, and like that's how it became a thing. I'm like, okay, so the he's like an angry little snail, an angry journalist, something like that. There's a dude in there basically. Wo-Chien's a dude.
That's kind of messed up, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Pokemon has some cool lore sometimes. I like that. That's flavorful. I think that's fun.
Yes, but yeah, Wo-Chien. It also just fits my play style. I like having fat Pokemon on the field.
So as Pokemon YouTubers, the game kind of consumes our whole life. It's everything we think about. Do you ever get burnt out and in your off time you want to like step away from the game and what is it called? Have a palate cleanser for a little bit?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like my brain rot is too severe. No matter how much you get burnt out on this game, I always come back to it. And I think it's because I'm a competitive player. There's basically never a shortage of content to enjoy. And, there are some competitive players who are like, oh, I don't team build. I just take teams and use them. I'm very much someone who more enjoys the team building aspect of the game. So even if I'm the most burnt out Pokemon player of all time, randomly, I'll be just like sitting at my desk and go, Swalot's kind of cool. Let's see what Swalot can do. And then I'll have a Swalot team by the end of the day,
I think I'm the same. Even, talking about Gen 3 for hours and hours throughout the entire week. On the weekend, I have a day off. I'd queue up some Gen 3 OU. Let's build around like wheezing real quick. It's just something it's something so appealing about team building, cooking stuff up.
You have far less Pokemon and items, but like even that like lower pool of Pokemon is enough to keep you entertained basically forever.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost amplifies niche Pokemon when the options are more restricted.
I find it really funny. I'll be honest, like I can never be sold on the physical special split in earlier generations,
The
but there are
lack of
certain
it?
things about earlier. Yeah, sorry. The lack of it. But like even then, like there are some quirks of Gen 3 that I find just so funny. Like the fact that Absol, a dark type with 130 base attack, doesn't run dark moves because it has 75 base special attack. So it's like moveset is what? Like Swords Dance, Shadow Ball. I think it runs quick attack sometimes. Like it's so weird to like look at
And
that
like
nowadays.
hidden power fighting or hidden power ground, which are physical.
Yeah.
It is weird. It is weird. It's what a lot of people can't get into it because of that, because it's unintuitive.
Yeah, like I like Gen 3 quite a bit. Gen 3 is my favorite generation of Pokemon. Very closely followed by Gen 7. So what I do for Gen 3 is, I have this like analog pocket, and I'll just like RNG manipulate to get shiny Pokemon in Gen 3, and I'll just kind of make competitive sets, even though I'm never going to play competitive on that game physically. I'll just kind of like do Battle Tower. So I have a pretty deep appreciation for Gen 3.
I don't even do that, folks. Moxie Boosted is a bigger Gen 3 fan than me.
I just like playing the game. I think the reason that I enjoy Pokemon more than most competitive players is just that I enjoy the grind of the game. It gives me something to do.
A lot of people are drawn to that side of it. I actually hate that side of it. I kind of grew up with the battle simulator, so I'm used to having everything instantly and focusing on the mechanics. But I like, MMOs and the grindiness of certain games, so I can understand the appeal.
Yeah, especially with like Scarlet and Violet, I really appreciate the cycle, or is it the gameplay loop of that game in particular, because there is sort of a live service component to it. We have the raids that come by once in a while. Like I have an iron bundle I use for tournaments that you could only get for one weekend that has like the unrivaled mark. It's like little quirks like that draw me to play the game, as like a daily player and not just as like a competitive player, because it's just like, oh cool, anyone can roll up to a tournament, but who has Iron Bingle the Unrivaled? Oh no, just me and a few other people, And you can also just hack it in, but who really? But then it kind of like defeats the purpose.
I guess that's the thing, is that it kind of devalues all your effort when you know that it could just be hacked in, unlike an actual live service game where you can't do that.
Yeah. And I've never been anti-hacking. Like I've always been like, hey, I don't really care. Do what you need to do to play the game. The more people play in the game, the better the game is, which is why VGC's been popping off so much recently. But for me, as like a personal choice, I just like the idea of like being like, oh, this is the particular Incineroar I brought to the 2018 Memphis Regional Championships, and this is the particular, Crocodile I brought. I like that.
What's the anime side of the game? Like you have a strong bond with this particular Incineroar.
Not exactly. It's mostly just like memories, like a trophy on the wall.
Right. You earned it yourself.
Yeah. So that's definitely a reason. I think I have a good attitude about the game, is mostly just because of that. I just like playing it. Also just socially, VGC is a phenomenal social game. You meet so many great people.
I think in the future I might get into the Pokemon card game, just because I like card games and would be an excuse to go to in-person events, because I did enjoy the vibe of the regional, just not as into the format itself.
That's the funny thing too. Yeah, the funny thing about regionals is that like the VGC, TCG, Go, and like Unite players, everyone kind of gets along. There's not really any like group who's like, oh, our game's the best, but everyone will dunk on the Go players because they have objectively the hardest game to get into, because there's not really a way to cheat it. And also it's a little hard to watch and get into, the tap, 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 tap.
I always forget that's an actual competitive game they do. I've seen gameplay of it. You just literally tap in the screen. Like, no disrespect. I'm sure there's depth to it somehow, but it looks very basic at a complete surface level.
I've asked them about it. I've asked a few like really high tier players about it, and they're like, yeah, so like there are these things called half charges, and also the optimal Pokemon has maximum defenses but minimum attack, like across the board. There's not really a reason to ever run anything with more than that. And I'm like, what? It's just, there's weird depth to it, like the sort of
crazy
depth that you would only pay attention to if you were a competitive player.
Well, respect to them. I'm sure there's a lot of skill in that most wouldn't appreciate.
Oh, for sure. Because I know for a fact, because I don't appreciate it.
Did you ever play Pokemon Unite? I quite enjoyed that game for like a week.
So I played Pokemon Unite for I think 3 days, right? And I mained Slowbro. But
yeah, he was fun.
I couldn't stay invested in it because it was taking away from my other Pokemon. So I played it for like a week, and
The like grinding for the items was quite time consuming.
yeah, I didn't like that you had to grind to, I don't know. League of Legends, you don't really have to grind to get into, do you? Like, I've never
There's
played it.
no, I think
I have self-respect.
I actually haven't played it in many years, but used to have to buy runes, which give you extra stats. They're kind of like EVs, and they cost like in-game currency,
Gotcha.
so you actually is a bit of a grind.
Oh, well, now I'm just sad.
Yeah, I mean that's how a lot of free-to-play games work, right? You pay to skip that.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. But you kind of get what I mean, though, right? Like, it's just like, oh, hey, this game, if I didn't already play a game that required me to put so much time into playing it, then maybe I'd be able to get into another game that requires me to do that, but I can't do two.
Outside of Pokemon, what are some other hobbies or passions that you have that bring you joy in life?
So I think that other than Pokemon, my main hobby is lifting weights.
Cool.
And learning way too much about bodybuilding. When I was in college, I got really into like fitness stuff, and basically I lost like a ton of weight. Just kind of got really into. I guess I'm a grind kind of person, I got really into the grind of like honing in my diet and like going to the gym every day. So like that's like my main other hobby. I think beyond that, I can technically call travel a hobby at this point, but it's mostly just a byproduct of my work.
Fitness is it's a fantastic hobby to have, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I'm not like the most fit guy ever, but I can throw up some weight. Also, I mean, like I love cooking. Cooking's great.
What kind of things do you cook up?
Mostly I like to experiment with like health conscious food. Like I'll find the lowest calorie, highest protein version of like a Chicago deep dish, like that sort of thing.
Oh, cool.
So that's something I like.
Min-maxing and theory crafting.
Yeah, no, literally
in every
theory crafting,
component
like,
of life.
Yeah, mainly just like that. But yeah, I mean, I also just like science. A lot of people know this about me on my channel, but I'm on yours now. I actually went to school for physics, and
yeah, I saw some comments about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I'm actually published in Nature and the Journal of Applied Physics, and I think I might have one more from my undergrad research, but I have a couple of plaques from that. And even though I like loved doing research, when I got out of college, like the only real jobs I could get with a physics degree that would take me at that time, because we were just exiting COVID, were like basically just like defense contracting. I'd be making like missiles and stuff, like coding the protocol for that sort of thing or whatever it would be, because I knew like Python and Java and C++, and like you learn a lot of coding languages. But yeah, so like I would only really get hired by defense contractors, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to do research. So after that, I worked at like a water treatment, not a water treatment company. They did a lot of things, but I was in their water lab, and I would like run experiments and design like stress tests and like blow up water filters. And that job was mind numbing after the first few months. So that's when I really locked in on content creation, because it was work that wasn't mind numbing.
Are you still involved with that in some way now? Like you kind of researching or what have you? Or have you kind of moved past such a thing?
I'm basically past it. If YouTube takes a wrong turn and I make absolutely no money from it in the future, or I get like completely bored of it, I do have the option to go to grad school. So I might do it in the future. At the moment, I'm mostly focusing on paying off my undergrad loans and trying to live a happy life.
It does sound like a solid fallback to have. Will we ever see like a second channel, Moxie Physics or something? Physics content?
I've considered. I think that before I make physics content, I would do like fitness content. Like there's a hierarchy of stuff I want to like talk about. And I think after like 5 years of studying physics, I got kind of burnt out. Towards the end, they had me doing thermodynamics. It's undergrad, so it's not like the hardest physics stuff, but they had me doing like thermodynamics, which is a really difficult class in my experience. And quantum physics 1 and 2 were really, really annoying.
Well, I always sucked at education. I know very little about physics, so...
Throw rock, rock go up, rock come down. That's physics.
Well, there you go. That makes perfect sense.
You ever watch Dr. Stone?
No, I've never heard of that.
Okay, so like Dr. Stone is this anime that my ex and I got into, and basically it's about like the world, everyone in the world got petrified into rocks, and then like people were slowly depetrified thousands of years later, and the main character is like this genius guy who has to start from scratch and is trying to rebuild society. And it's just a speed run of technology. is what the series is. So I would like watch that, and I would like Dora the Explorer shout things at the TV, be like, "He can make a generator with magnets if you can magnetize." Like I was just like, that's like the most I'm getting out of my physics degree is treating Dr. Stone like Dora the Explorer.
That's a really fun concept for a show. I like that.
It's really cool. It's a fun series.
I might have to add that to the watch list. Whenever there's like scientific, what do they call it, like techno babble in shows and movies, I literally just trust it because I have no frame of reference to like deny it or question it. So it must be interesting, but actually knowing about that stuff, be like, no, like actually you could do this.
Actually, it's to the contrary. Having a physics degree has ruined movies for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it would make it like harder to suspend your disbelief at certain things. Whereas I'm just an absolute buffoon, and I just trust whatever they say. They're like, yeah, that sounds smart.
You ever watch the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there's this scene, right? Dr. Octopus and Spider-Man fighting on a train, right? Train is moving at a constant speed, and Doc Ock, in an attempt to kill Spider-Man, sees a sign that they're approaching, these signs above the trains. So he takes Spider-Man and he throws him directly upwards, not forward, not backward, just directly upwards in an attempt to have Spider-Man crash into the sign and die. Spider-Man does a little twirl midair. That's perfectly possible. You can manipulate your body midair. To not hit the sign, he flies between the two signs, and he lands further forward on the train than he was thrown up from. Conservation of momentum and air resistance would mean that he should be further backwards on the train from Doc Ock, but somehow he gained momentum and flew forward, and that ruined that movie for me. I saw that after, having completed my physics degree, or I think I was still in school actually. And I was in a room full of other physics students. We were just kind of hanging out. And everyone in the room pointed at the TV. We soy-jacked at it. And we went, that's wrong. That's not how it works.
I mean, can't you suspend your disbelief for something cartoonish like Sam Raimi Spider-Man? Or is it literally just annoying and you can't accept it?
Spider-Man makes me so mad. I love it, though. It's still so good.
Those are classics. But what if it's like an animated movie like Spider-Verse? Because if it's written in real life, maybe it's harder to accept. But an animated world... In an animated world, like I can watch One Piece and be like, yeah, that's Luffy can stretch. But it depends. Like if they're trying to explain that something can happen, then like I'll be annoying, but actually, but if they're trying to have this veil of like scientific nature to it, and it's just wrong. I can understand that being annoying.
If it's not animated and something just completely unrealistic happens in a way that isn't whimsical, it's just wrong. Because like that thing, that's if it was whimsical, like, oh, Spider-Man, Captain America throws a shield and it bounces around, be like, oh yeah, that's just Captain America's shield. But if it's something mundane, like landing further forward on the train, that's what makes me mad.
I suppose Sam Raimi is not a physics expert, so we can forgive him, folks.
It's all right, Sam.
What are some of your favorite movies or shows, speaking of that?
So I'm actually not too into watching TV nowadays. I mostly just work on YouTube videos and play Pokemon and work out. Like basically, like my day doesn't have a lot of time to sit down and watch TV. And also I have major anxiety issues, so not doing stuff gets me kind of weird. But when I do find the time to watch like a show, it's usually like I'll be doing something else and have the show on. I am very much a zoomer in that sense. The few shows that I'll watch, like I said, I watched the new Fallout series. That was the most recent thing I saw, but I keep up with Invincible, and I watched the One Piece live action, and like I read manga, right? So like
I've started doing that too recently.
Oh, it's great. Like I'll watch like One Piece like as it comes out week to week, but like sort of in the corner of my eye because I don't have to pay attention to it. It's an adaptation of something I already read. And Chainsaw Man is one of my favorite mangas at the moment. So I'm like actively waiting for that new season to come out, even though it's gonna be a couple of years. But beyond that, I'm mostly like a 8-hour YouTube essay kind of guy.
Me too. I consume a lot of YouTube, but manga is good because you can consume it at your own pace. It doesn't not quite as time consuming as sitting down to watch like a 40-minute episode of a TV show.
Yeah, but that definitely was like frustrating in like my last relationship because my ex was very much like oh, let's sit down and watch like this show. But I'm like so all over the place that I'd be like, I'm gonna play Showdown on my phone and watch the show, and she'd be like, hey, can you not do that? And I'm like, yes, babe, I'm gonna put away my phone and I'm going to lock in on what we are watching. And I just can't do that, I think for me to lock in on something without having another thing going on, it has to be in a theater, you know? Like I really love watching
like
movies in theaters,
the
but
theater
I can't do it at
without
home.
the distractions.
Yeah.
I try to, watch movies and good TV shows from time to time, and I think in the modern age we're too overstimulated with all this crap, like multiple tabs open, multiple monitors, phone. It's nice to just sit and focus on one thing for a bit, and if it actually is a good piece of media capturing your attention.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that one of the few like really great experiences in life is watching a movie in theaters, having known nothing about it, like not even seeing a trailer, picking it out at random. I think that's like one of the best things.
And it surprises you, and it's really good.
Yeah, I actually I went to go see the movie Midsommar.
Oh, I love that movie. Great movie.
Yeah, so I made a mistake. I didn't know what it was about.
Oh no.
And I took an edible right before.
Oh dear.
So.
Were you okay? Because that's quite an intense film.
I was fine, but like that, what is it when they like split that dude open and did like the eagle thing?
Yeah, that's quite an image.
I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I was like, huh. But yeah, I was fine throughout it. But I should have probably went.
I knew exactly what I was getting into there. If you didn't know, it might have, because it starts off as kind of like a fun. They go into that little village, and you wouldn't necessarily know what direction it's going to go in. It's a slow burn.
Yeah.
That's quite a shock.
Yeah, what's funny is the same thing happened with Hereditary. Exact same thing.
Oh, really? This same director? How do you not know?
Same director, literally same director, same production company, same situation. I went, I don't know what this is about. My friend's like, oh, let's go see it. And I went,
family drama.
Yeah, it's a family movie.
My gosh,
there are some movies where it's not even worth it to skip the trailer. Godzilla versus Kong. You already know it's Godzilla versus Kong. Watch the trailer. Get hyped.
I try not to watch trailers too much. I think many of them these days can just spoil the whole movie, so I try to avoid them.
I think that the older I get, the more I appreciate like kids movies. You know what I mean? Like I think one of my favorite movies of all time is Megamind.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
DreamWorks has some classics for sure.
Yeah. I recently found out that not a lot of people like Shark Tale. That surprised me.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I really liked that movie, but it's not the best. I
haven't seen it in a few years. Maybe it's bad.
I do have fond memories of it, and I don't really want to rewatch it to ruin that. I did quite like it. I think it's considered good. I think it was like a competitor to Finding Nemo at the time, and it wasn't quite as good as that, so it's got a bad reputation.
Yeah, was it Finding Nemo? It might have been something else. I don't know. But apparently Megamind was competing with Despicable Me. Those released at the same time, which is crazy.
Megamind is a lot better.
Yeah, and they both had a character named Minion in them.
Did you watch the new Puss in Boots? I talked about this with my last guest.
Yeah, actually the new Puss in Boots was phenomenal.
It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you know how I said like I'm very much a YouTube essay kind of guy?
Yeah.
Well, also, I found out like a year ago that this is crazy to find out when you're 23, by the way. I found out I was autistic, or I still am, which makes a lot of more things make sense in my life, and this also explains why I have so many random hyperfixations. And for a solid year and a half, I was very much a like animation guy. I was like, dude, the animation, Samurai Jack season 3, dude. Like I would just get super into that. And some of that still pops up nowadays. And that new Puss in Boots, ooh, that almost got me back into the animation rabbit hole. I want to learn how to draw. I want to animate,
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I have periods where I fixate on a particular thing for a bit. Right now it's manga. Yeah, it's a new thing for me. I've been reading One Piece. Speaking of One Piece, I really love it. It's awesome.
How far are you? How far?
I'm up to chapter 200 something. They're in the city in the sky.
Okay.
That's very cool.
That's a solid place to be at. My close friend Andrew, he's just past where you are. Actually, he's a few arcs later, but he stopped at arguably the best arc of the first half of the series. It's called Enni's Lobby, and a bunch of really cool stuff happens that I'm not going to spoil. But like, it's so frustrating when like someone picks up One Piece and you go, "How far are you?" And you just have to wait. You have to be like, oh, I want to talk to you about what's happening now. Please finish it quicker. Please.
Well, honestly, like I've taken quite a few breaks with it because it's just so long. You got to have a palate cleanser here and there. It's like, it can't just be you're consuming One Piece and that's it for however long it takes to finish the whole series. You got to space it out.
One Piece has skewed my perception of how long manga's supposed to run. Because like, I'm reading One Piece and we're on chapter 1113 now. And I recently found out that I think it's Jujutsu Kaisen is wrapping up, and I'm like, wait, what? It's done. There's like 200 chapters at most. I was like, how is it done?
Oh, is that finishing? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they're on like literally the final fight of the series. Like they're fighting the big bad.
I started watching that, and I quite honestly didn't quite enjoy it. especially compared to One Piece. I feel like
it skews your perception of other manga. It's just, you're reading Peak.
Well,
you're already reading Peak.
There's, they're a similar genre, right? The shonen, power of friendship and all that. I find Luffy to be the most compelling one out of any I've seen. I find him way more relatable and funny. And in general, One Piece has this perfect tone of like, it can go in a goofy direction and be legitimately really funny and also have serious epic moments too. I thought Jujutsu Kaisen was a bit too like, it's almost every trope of all time, every anime trope in one.
Yeah, Chosen One, absurdly strong at the beginning of the series, like that sort of thing. Yeah, I can kind of see where you got that. I've been trying to read it. I haven't gotten terribly far.
I think that what I appreciate about One Piece is that every character has a relatable motivation. But I think in Jujutsu Kaisen, the main character, I'm not really behind his journey. I thought in the first episode, it was a bit weird. Like he just finds out he's this OP guy and this secret magical sorcerer. And I feel like he doesn't react to it very much. He's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm sure like it gets better, but
I mean, the animation quality and the fights are awesome, and there's a lot of cool stuff to appreciate there. But I feel like the world building and like my connection to the characters is not quite as strong as it is compared to like One Piece, which I'm reading at the same time. I'm like, I'd rather just keep reading One Piece. There's more to offer here. Every new storyline in One Piece, it surprises me with something so creative, and it's a famously what do you call it? Like shonen anime kind of gets a bad rap for being like really long running and meandering sometimes. I feel like One Piece does a good job of holding your attention, legitimately subverting your expectations a lot.
Oh yeah. I think that like a series I would recommend. I recommend it to basically everybody, but like how to explain it. So a series that really subverts your expectations is Chainsaw Man. It is my second favorite series, right behind One Piece. Are you familiar with it?
I've heard of it.
So the best way to describe Chainsaw Man to get people into it without spoiling anything about the show is, have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yeah, I think I have.
So, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, basic food, water, shelter at the bottom. Then in the middle, it's like friends, family, relationships. And then the very top, it's like self-actualization. Chainsaw Man is effectively like the creator of the manga went like, we're going to turn Maslow's hierarchy of needs into a manga and it's going to be good. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. So, there's definitely some scenes where it does like the typical anime cringe stuff where it's like, oh, hey, look, the sexualization of like this person or that person. But it's never done for the sake of like being an anime that sexualizes, characters. It's done to comment on how weird that is and why people crave that for some reason. Like everything sort of has a purpose, and it's really cool how it subverts your expectation in that way.
I could appreciate that. That is one of the weirdest parts of anime. It's just out of nowhere, there'll just be some out-of-pocket moment for zero reason.
Yeah, like the main character, his main motivation, like I said, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So like he's homeless, starving, and on the verge of death in the first chapter. And then by the end of that, it's solved, and then sort of like the main issue is he doesn't know what he wants next. He feels undriven. So the next thing he chooses, he goes out of order of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And he goes very blatantly, and it's supposed to be kind of goofy. He goes, I want to touch someone's boobs. And that's where the chapter ends. And his main motivator is he wants to do that. He wants to like be intimate with a woman. And then as he goes on in life, he kind of realizes, he's like, why do I want this? I don't know why I want it. I'm just kind of like a creep. Why, like, and then eventually he like understands, like,
right.
He wants to actually connect with someone. Yeah, like what he really wants, his understanding of that is he wants to be physically intimate with someone, but what he really needs is a relationship with someone who cares about him. And there's even like the subversion of expectation where this relationship he has can go in like a sexual direction, but it ends up becoming platonic and he has no interest in them despite being presented that opportunity. Like the series is genius, dude. Like it's such a good commentary on like shonen as a whole, but also just like growing up. It's crazy.
That sounds intriguing.
But yeah, no, Chainsaw Man. I will always try to sell people on it.
I'm pretty intrigued, I'll admit. You've done a good job.
Also, the fights are cool. Like the dude sprouts chainsaws out of his hands, That's pretty cool.
That is fun.
I mean, and that's written by this dude. I think it's, what's his name? I forget the name of the manga, right? But he's always written weird series. His previous series was this it was this manga called Fire Punch. you ask like, oh, what's Fire Punch about? You present that to the board of directors at like the manga company or whatever, the publishing company, and they're like, oh, what does he have, like fire powers? And he goes, no, his power is regeneration. It's like, oh, why is it called Fire Punch then? So this wizard casts a spell on him that sets him on fire forever. So he's always on fire, but he regenerates, so it doesn't matter. He goes, oh, so he just like got used to it? No, he's in pain forever. It sucks. He writes weird stories, but they're all like really good for some reason. Like you get crazy invested.
A lot of creativity in manga, I found.
Oh yeah.
I read one called Monster. That was really good. I would recommend that one if you haven't read it.
Is that the one shot by Eiichiro Oda?
No, it's I feel like even explaining it would just spoil the entire premise. But
okay, maybe I'll just check it out. I'll figure out what it is on my own.
I'm trying to think of how to give a little blurb on it without spoiling too much. It's about this like genius level surgeon who decides in a split second decision to like save this kid before saving this like important mayor, and goes against the orders of the hospital. But then that kid grows up and turns out to be a serial killer, and it's like this game of cat and mouse between them for all these years. And there's all these questions like morality and like, you're a surgeon, you have the power to literally bring someone back to life. What does that mean to you, and how do you decide who gets to live and who gets to die? Should you have resurrected this guy basically? And then how are you supposed to know that he would do that? I don't know. I found it very compelling. And it raises these impossible moral questions that really get you thinking deeply. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'll check it out. I mean, like, I have all the time in the world to read manga at the moment. I need some recommendations once in a while.
Moving on then. A question from Paige Clayton for both of us. Do you drink boba tea? If so, what is your favorite flavor? I will not stop until I get answers.
I would say my favorite flavor is... I drink boba tea, by the way. Yeah, I was already going into the answer. Yeah. But I am very much a fan of matcha. I think that like matcha boba is my favorite with like some milk in it.
I do drink boba tea. I think I like the like flower flavor, like rose. I really like that taste. It's like a subtle...
I've never had that.
A subtle little seasoning. That's probably not how you describe it, but you know what I mean.
Almost like a scent that becomes a flavor.
Yeah, it's got a really pleasant flavor that's like subtle and nice, in my opinion. But that stuff is expensive, folks. I haven't been having it recently because it's like in Australia, it's like $9 for one boba tea. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, boba tea is quite expensive.
Circling back to the YouTube as a career discussion, this is definitely like a dream job for a lot of people, but I would say that like not everyone is cut out for the volatility and uncertainty of it. Your success is tied to views, which is inherently inconsistent and random thing that you don't have full control over, and that can be quite stressful from time to time. How have you grappled with that particular aspect of the... Sometimes it's hard to predict the future of something like this.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've basically just accepted that there are going to be good months and there are going to be bad months. I'm sure you're aware November, January, December, or November, December in particular, great months for YouTube. But then, you get into the spring months and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I was making 3 times this much a month ago and now I'm making like nothing. And that can be like the roughest part. So you're definitely forced to budget, which can be kind of, frustrating at times. But I think that like if someone budgets properly, they should have no issue surviving a while. I guess investing's also a big thing. I'm probably gonna have to make like a self-funded 401k or some kind of retirement plan.
Yeah.
That's the scariest part.
It helps to treat it like a true job and be conservative, save money, and all that.
It's basically non-optional.
I personally really like having total control over what I'm doing rather than working a more traditional job. I think it's a good fit for me, even if sometimes it can be a bit stressful and scary. I really enjoy being able to do something creative and just having total control over it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't imagine going back and like having to do something someone else tells me to do nowadays,
Yeah, I mean, maybe life will take me back in that direction, and there's pros and cons to that too. You got more of a work-life balance, I think, and there's benefits to that, depending on what your career is, of course.
I definitely have to get more into streaming. I've always meant to stream, but like ever since I moved back with my parents, like I'm so unmotivated to stream because it's more hours in my house that I don't want to be in.
Yeah, I think streaming is a weird one. It doesn't really grow your channel. Yeah. It's almost better to focus on videos because they are like the meat. They're the engine. Streaming is like a supplement to them.
Yeah, I'm mostly like thinking about like growing my Twitch channel again because I never really... I used to have a, fairly big Twitch following. I just kind of stop streaming. And
I'm
I
not
think
a
that if
huge Twitch fan these days. I feel like it's better to stream on YouTube if you have a YouTube audience. It integrates them both in one place.
Yeah, I think for me, mostly I'm just interested in the Twitch culture a little more than the YouTube streaming culture, because legitimately, like, sometimes the viewers you get on YouTube during the stream don't really know how streams work. I've had people like in the comments of my old streams commenting like they're in the live stream. I'm like, hello, buddy? I don't know. I like the Twitch culture, and having your eggs not all be in one basket can be pretty useful.
That's true. YouTube doesn't have like the cool emotes and the memes and the even rating doesn't really work, and there's little things like that are annoying and maybe a little bit nicer as a streamer and viewer on Twitch. But I just personally value that they're both integrated in one place, and when you go live on YouTube, all your YouTube audience can see that, and you can even have a thumbnail on the stream. It appears on the homepage just like a video would, so there's an element of like growth there where you can. Whereas on Twitch, it's more discovering new channels is not as big of a part of it. You kind of just follow the channels you like that you probably were referred to from another platform.
Yeah. I also find that like Twitch is a decent way to, YouTube has really bad discovery for streams, so great discovery for videos, right? Where Twitch, there's great discovery for streams, and that can be useful because you can try to funnel them into your YouTube. But I found that like,
do you think Twitch has good discovery for streams? I thought the opposite, actually.
Oh no, I found it to be very good for discovery, because I don't know, maybe not everyone uses Twitch the same way I do, but like when I go on Twitch, I'm like, oh, I want to, find a cool new streamer, so I'll just look up a game and see who's streaming it. Where with YouTube, I feel like people don't really go on YouTube to find new streamers,
Maybe I'm wrong about that. I haven't used Twitch a lot recently. Maybe they've changed how it works, or people use the platform in a different way than I realized.
Yeah. But it's a decent platform for growth.
You can dual stream now too. That's something.
I tried that. I can't really get into it. I don't like having to talk to like two different chats.
Yeah, I haven't done it myself. Seems a bit clunky, and you'd rather focus on one platform or the other, right? Rather than divide the audience.
Oh, for sure.
And speaking of that tournament we're both in, are you looking forward to playing some singles in a tournament environment?
I mean, it could be fun.
Trying something new.
Definitely am going to enjoy, trying something new is what I'm mostly looking forward to. And also, like, my experience on OU and stuff has mostly just been me using a team, kind of sweeping through low ladder, but never really practicing against any high skill opponents. I never really, like, bothered getting to that point in ladder where that was feasible, So I'm excited to play against good people.
Have you been cooking up some teams? Or
not yet.
I look forward to whatever you choose to bring. There is some funny stuff in Gen 9.
I think I'm probably going to bring something on brand. Maybe not anything too fancy, though.
The Wo-Chien?
Yeah, something that'll work. I
don't think Wo-Chien's very good in OU. I wouldn't recommend it.
No, I'm going to get U-turned. Yeah, he's going to die.
U-turn week is a rough one. Well, let's end this with one final question here from a Mocha name. If you were in Plato's allegory of the cave, where would you be?
I'd be standing in the fire, just straight up standing in it, burning.
Bit of self-immolation. I'd be looking at the puppets on the wall, clueless to the outside world.
No, Plato's allegory of the cave. I don't know. Maybe I'd be doing the little shadow puppets. Maybe that'd be fun.
Oh, you're the one manipulating the masses.
Yes, I'm doing a showdown live with my fingers.
Maybe that's what we are as YouTube, is we're the puppet masters.
Getting people to use low tiers for fun.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, Moxie Boosted. Excellent conversation. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. Nice to finally collaborate. A lot of people have requested this in my streams and comments. It's nice to finally do something together.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, I watch a lot of your content. It's very much the sort of like put it on my phone and make breakfast sort of content,
Happy to hear that. Thank you. And I like your channel as well. You're my go-to VGC guy. I think you got some of the best. Whenever I want to know what the heck's going on over there or just something interesting, put on some Moxie Boosted, folks. I would recommend his channel.
Remember, I'm the number 3 biggest VGC channel, right behind Aaron and Wolf. So if you need a good investment, invest in Moxie. I'm gonna get up there. I'm probably not gonna pass Wolf. Maybe Aaron. Who knows? I might be hard to still get third for like the next 10 years. Who knows?
That's a bronze medal, and that's admirable.
We'll take bronze.
All right. Thank you very much.